Good morning. Good morning. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show. My name is Andre Hill Sr., and I have to my right Andre Hill Jr., my co-host, and we had scheduled Andre Polite to be here. He has some interference, and that happens when you're in this business, especially when you bring some knowledge like what we're bringing. Those entities will mess with you. They will test you. So, but anyway, I posted an interesting topic, and I knew it was going to be controversial. I knew that, you have to just get up and follow through and let the chips fall where they may. But, part of what I think this show is all about, is economic empowerment, is spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah, it's all of that.
Yeah. And so, you understand the 144 different human personalities. And I think in the many shows that we've done, we've had to try and speak in all those different languages, to get them to understand, or wake up, hit that nerve that's going to ignite or turn the switch on in their mind,
Absolutely. We cover a pretty broad spectrum here on the Straight Talk Radio. So we hit a lot of frequencies. Everything from the mundane and tangible and empirical, all the way to the metaphysical and what's considered high vibratory. Well, thank you for turning my mic up. Couldn't hear me good.
Yeah, I can hear, and I hear better now.
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear myself too.
Okay.
So yeah. So anyway, my bad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing. Okay. So you saw the post I put out on Facebook last night, and what?
Now I saw it, but I have no idea what you want to talk about today. like roughly, I saw what he put out, fam, and I was like, I'll just figure it out in the morning. Not like straight up. This is real straight talk. Sometimes he'll post some stuff. He'd be like, "Hey, you see that?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." But I briefly looked at it, and we come in here and we have a real raw discussion about it. Though this is not going to be a scripted show. It never is, but this really ain't scripted.
All right, so this was what happened when you hang out with somebody for 34 years.
Yeah,
I've been with my son for. I took a 2-year break when I went to Columbus, Ohio. But other than that,
I was grown, so it ain't matter. It's all good.
Okay, so we're telepathic. We communicate verbally and telepathically. So, all right. So here's what basically I was saying last night. I'm worried about Earthmen, and
okay, got you.
Yeah. I'm worried because, we going along with this program,
mm-hmm.
and we're being pimped, we're being hustled, manipulated, bamboozled, and led astray.
Yeah.
And so, I'm searching for the answers. What can I say to get them to give Earthmen? All of it, whether you
all
black,
black,
Caucasian, Asian,
I was gonna ask
whatever
you,
persuasion.
Talking about.
All right. So what can I say to get you to wake up? First of all, if you're born, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the question is, do you go, in the cycle of the rebirth, as you get older, do you want to go out fighting while you're standing, or do you want to go out on your knees? And so these are the different phrases and philosophies we try to use to get people, because this is a short period, this life, and it's an experiment. And during this life, you're going to have trials and tribulations and challenges, and it's all based on your moral character in terms of how life is going to be made for you, whether it's going to be easy or rough, Yeah. And so, at any rate, I'm speaking to primarily right now, the men.
Right.
And so most of the men on this planet was raised up, not all, with this philosophy that there's a devil and a demon, that, if you don't do right by the Most High, he's going to get you. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this mythical image, something that they can't really see, but somewhere in your subconscious mind, it's been implanted, and it prohibits us from understanding how to come together as a collective to make a difference on this planet. Now your individual challenges is just basically adjusting your moral compass, respecting the basic laws of the universe, and all men are created equal.
Yeah, I think so if since you said all men, we're not necessarily just talking about black men or quote unquote men of color. When we still have to compartmentalize the entire group of men if we're gonna talk about that. And in general, if we're talking about the male species, it's right now. It seems like on a general and a global level, men don't respect even the concept of a god. We don't, right? It's like if you think about like any one of the wars in history, we had a reason for starting, and not necessarily saying it was a good reason, but it was always men making the decision to go to war. And again, so war is an overall concept. But even if we step down a couple of levels, and we look at men on a social cultural level, there is a heavy global culture, especially now, of patriarchal societies where men want to they want to lead, but there's a lot of just unrighteousness in that spectrum. So in other words, a lot of men want to control stuff, right? And then and you break it down on another level, and still talking about all men. Then we have a very volatile relationship with our counterparts, which the only reason we here, you see what I'm saying, is it's like we have a rough, generally speaking, we have a rough relationship with women on this planet, right? I mean, there's like whole concepts and terms of experiences based on the interaction between men and women. You got misogyny, on one end of the spectrum, all the way to rape on the other end of the spectrum, and all of these are whole paradigms or universes of experiences. And out of all of that stuff I just got through talking about, it's like, where is the concept of respecting, a God in that, or bring it over here, just or even respecting universal law. So now, if I was gonna break it down now, I have to. So I know we started off talking about men in general, but this is Straight Talk Radio Show. We is cultural, and we proud of our culture, and so I have to talk to black men in particular. Now, I'm not saying black men are definitely not saying black men are without fault. Have we failed? Victim to, or have we subscribed to the parasitic like patriarchal paradigm of the world? Yeah, you know what I mean. Truth of the matter is we started it, but we have fell into a much more sadistic form of it by way of let's I ain't gonna say conquest. I'm just gonna say interaction with all of the other nations of men out there. So in this country, we've been put into a position of where we are willingly subjugated at this point, right? Especially like black men, because a lot of time when I talk to black men, and let me come back a little bit. Are we willingly subjugated? Yes, but it came from conditioning, of course, and we know why. We can go back to our Holocaust in this country and dig up all of the points as to why we in the state that we're in. But a lot of the times when I'm talking to black men, we don't really grasp the concept of power. Now, when I say power, I'm not talking about power the way we perceive power today. Like, power is just absolute unforgiving, doesn't really care about anybody. And I'm not talking about that kind of power. But what I'm talking about, just at least saying to ourselves, hey, let's control, own, protect at least our own small microcosm. It's like I have a very difficult time talking to brothers about that, not because they don't want to talk about it, but it's because living in this country, somewhat behind enemy lines, we ain't been conditioned to do that in the last 100 years.
Well, this is the reason I brought up this particular topic. So here's what I posted on Facebook. Black and Caucasian men of Earth that wants to reclaim or validate their manhood.
Uh-huh.
All right. The fear of the unknown causes apathy concerning our manly duties. The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and how we're going to defeat it.
Okay.
So the whole purpose of this show is there's an unknown, and which causes men, whether they're black or Caucasian, or Asian, or Indian. When I'm talking about a country from India, I'm not talking about so-called Native Americans. Because black people were the original Native Americans right here in these United States, and so that was obscured from history intentionally. So the whole purpose is to get to the root of the problem, and what I was posting was the analogy of the Wizard of Oz once again.
Uh-huh.
All right. So I've projected this concept in different languages, but today I'm going to explain the root of this entity to give men the confidence to rise up, and take charge of their own lives, and that's the whole purpose. And so
I think I ain't mean to cut you off, but I think we're gonna come to a connecting point in this conversation where you go as you move forward with that.
Okay. So I know a lot of the people. Okay, they want to get to well, who is this Wizard of Oz? And the last few shows, I talked about the general.
Right.
All right. Now, I got to set this up first.
I feel you.
Because, we still have our biblical foundation, which was, a watered down version of a watered down version.
Yeah. Literally. And that is no shade that we're throwing to any religious community. We're just, when we say that, we're talking about a, scientific method of accounting history. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. All right. So there are several wizards that there are the reptilians, there are the tall whites, and there are the grays, and these are extraterrestrial beings. We have reasserted this concept over and over again on this show,
right?
And it's because if you don't know the truth, we're gonna always be subjected to slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to help you set this conversation up, and because it's always rough transitioning into talking about tall ways, grays, Anunaki, all of that. But anyway, like you say, talking to our religious family out there. You will notice this if you start cross-referencing a lot of different creation stories, or not a lot of them necessarily, just the different creation stories from religion to religion. I mean, so what we suggest you do is, just be courageous. Go look at some other creation stories. Look at the Hindu one. Look at some of the ones outside of the Abrahamic religions. Look at some of the ones that are a little bit older than the concept of the Abrahamic religion that you particularly practice. What you're going to find is you're going to see a very similar creation story with just varying levels of similar characters. But what you're going to see sometimes is a much more tangible relation to the supernatural beings in the story, right? So, as we move forward with the conversation, does that help you set it up a little bit?
Well, but because it's complicated. It's simple, but it's complicated.
All right.
So what we have to realize. All right, you brought up the name Anunaki.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what I'm seeing with the Anunaki, I'm cross-referencing it to an experience I had when I started investigating, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out to Phoenix after a mile-wide UFO floated 3 to 4 miles an hour over the city of Phoenix. Right. Thousands of people saw this UFO.
Right.
The governor saw it, military people, policemen.
Right.
Everybody confirmed that this happened. But for some reason, the primary populace that we're trying to wake up, it's still voodoo, just that's crazy,
Right.
And I know why now.
Yeah. Okay.
I know why, and so what we have to do is identify the different groups and how they operate on this planet.
Right.
Okay. But the one I wanted to focus on today was the tall white, because that group has a particular significance on what's happening with our government right now and its influence. So, okay, so the Greys, they're doing the same thing, and the reptilians. The reptilians were mentioned in Genesis. And so, but they all are operating from different scenarios. Okay, so the tall whites. All right, and I watched this video by Charles Hall. Charles Hall. And this is a guy that worked in Area 53, 54, and it was called Dreamland, and he was an unsuspected young Caucasian man back in the middle 60s. And, we have been exchanging with extraterrestrials since the beginning of time. But in the most recent time, with radio, television developing in the 40s and the 50s and 60s, communication started to spread. And just like that UFO crash in 1947 in Roswell, the information got out and it got out of hand. So what our military government has done is learned how to control and debunk this truth. Because if you don't have this knowledge, you're not going to survive. If you don't understand the dynamics of the universe and how the supreme being works through these different entities, you're not in this lifetime. It's just going to be a dry run, and hopefully you've done and demonstrated enough love that in your next life you might have an opportunity to get a grasp of this information. But my son and I, we're bringing you this information because we know it, we study it, and it's real. There are pilots, generals from all over the world that attest to this. You can watch the documentary Unacknowledged, with Dr. Stephen Greer, and the Caucasians UFO community, they're going like, okay, we're not in on this deal, with the industrial military complex. So we want, why don't we share this technology, so that we don't have to have all this crazy stuff going on the planet. And so what they don't get is that their ancestors, cut a deal with these entities, and they can't, if they give up this knowledge, this information, they lose the playing field becomes level. So when black people wake up and realize that we're not the only humans in the universe and that there are other intelligent beings out there, and there has been from eternity, from the Alpha to the Omega, then we can start getting a grasp on ourselves. But we're gonna stay on point and deal with this one particular entity. We may deal with the reptilians at one point. I'm gonna hit back on the Anunaki, because the point I was getting at when I went to Phoenix is that this Caucasian female, and mostly the grays and the tall whites, will abduct Caucasian people. A lot of black people don't get abducted,
right?
Because our alien ancestors, they used the natural laws of the universe. So they don't have to come and abduct us and extract eggs and sperm from us and experiment on us, because they created this. They're on the higher level between the supreme being of the universe and the technology on the physical plane. So they don't have to do that. And that's one of the reasons why black folks are saying that, well, I ain't never seen them. I hear these stories about Caucasian people being abducted. Well, they're being abducted because their ancestors arranged a contract with these entities. But the flip side of that is our ancestors, the Anunnaki, the Browns, are the ones that allowed these other beings to come here, because I discovered that our ancestors, the Anunnaki, had greater technology.
They are. They have a branch within our galactic lineage. Yeah. And based on what I've experienced and researched, they have a much more organic.
Absolutely. Well, and you can see in some of the carvings from the pyramids how their bodies symmetrically are designed, and I think I know that they're on a higher level. I know this because they don't intervene. They intervene, but they don't intervene on the level of the grays and the tall whites. But we're going to stay on point with the tall whites, because this one particular entity that's been working out in Las Vegas, they have a base out there that's being supplied by our government, your tax money, to allow them to come in, visit, look at us just like they're visiting a zoo, because they look at us that way. They even look at Caucasian people like they're monkeys or chimpanzees. So they don't have any respect.
They mainly look at them like that.
Yeah. They don't have any respect. So black men and Caucasian men, I'm dealing with you right now, because in this scenario here in the United States, this is the main event. So black men, there is a character or an entity, and I mentioned it on the last show. I gave you some hints about, and this entity lives 600 to 700 to 800 years. They're called the tall whites, and what they do is, they have acquired the technology to live a long time, but they have an unusual physiological design. The older they live, the taller they become. All right, so they may start out, as young people around 6 feet and what have you, but over 300, 400, 500 years, they grow as tall as 8 feet. So, but here is what to give you human men of Earth some confidence. Because of that abnormality, when their body grows long like that, it can't support the organs. So it's very stressful. Their organs don't grow along with their body. And so that's what causes their demise. Now, here's something that you have to understand. They grow to be about 6, 7, 8 feet, but they don't weigh but more than 140, maybe 150 pounds. So they're very thin and physically weak. All right. So all you brothers and Caucasian men, that's cutting each other's throats, that's playing games, for your own selfish agendas, because you fear the unknown. You don't have to fear this tall white, and in particular this general, because if he's been around 600 or 700 years, he has been working with the development of the Catholic Church, with the development of all of these secret societies. It's all a cult. It's all spiritual mind control to get to see just how devious humans can be towards each other. All right, and so I'm trying to paint this image that this entity, the only advantage it has over you is technology.
Right. You good?
No, no. I thought I saw a thought coming out of your head.
Yeah. So this is what I was talking about when I say I was gonna try to bridge these points together. 4 minutes. All right. So, on a I guess on a first stage level, we were talking about our physical compared to their physical, and 'cause that's how men size folks up. That's the first thing we do. Is we look at something, can I knock this fool out? Right. So on a physical level, yeah, that is the case. In comparison to them, we are like chimpanzees in comparison to humans. Now a 4-foot chimpanzee in the jungle, you don't want to run up on him and get into a fight with him. He'll rip your whole arm off. That's how strong they are in comparison to us. They have a much denser muscle makeup. But like Pops was saying, the technological advantage is there. Now, here's where this is the only way we level the playing field. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about grasping the concept of power. They know that every day when we get up, we have been conditioned to go obtain all of our resources that allows us to live from day to day. We put 7, 8, 9, 10 middleman between us and that. They know that. They know when it comes to food, they know the average man doesn't do that for himself. We're like children. You know what I mean? So every time we have to go get some sustenance for our ability to live, we have to go rely on an outside source in order to make that happen. Clothing, shelter is the same way. When it comes to working, just period. When it comes to exchanging physical energy in order for something tangible, every day. We've been conditioned to work jobs. Even be entrepreneurs in a sense, right? But we don't create anything we don't have the habit, just the habit as an individual to create as an individual, just to sustain ourselves, period. We don't have that capacity. Every other organism, if they got some interest in us, they know that. They know that about us. So that's where the divide is. That's where the unequal playing field is. So, because we're about to go to break, I'm just trying to wrap this up in time. So
yeah, because I'm going to give you after the break, I'm going to give the specific formula on how we're going to overcome these entities that's using technology.
Yeah.
And for my biblical people, for the so-called Christ, from the biblical perspective, he said, you too can perform these miracles and even greater works. That's Bible talk for you can acquire this technology and even go in a more advanced level.
Yeah.
But do it naturally, not with artificial. Don't get so lazy that you got to have a computer even wipe your butt for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
have a beautiful melanated body that works as your melanated body is some of the best technology in this side of the universe.
Yeah. Hey, family, we just trying to wake you up because you remember for the last couple of shows with the coronavirus and all this is the end game. When they pull that trigger, the tall whites who created racism, because if you go back and do your research, there was no racism. People wouldn't. That was just developed in the last 400 or 500 years.
That's a fact. As a matter of fact, it literally developed in like 1620 or something like that.
Yeah.
Literally put on the books as a law as people now white.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're gonna explain when we're going to break, and we're gonna explain how we're gonna overcome this entity, and it's not really complicated. So stay tuned. And see you in just a few.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here for you.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio. Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other
and
in
had
no
no
time.
idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm
don't
and keep
ignore
to the
this
plan.
message.
Some parents plan ahead. Some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
All right. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show, and we're bringing confidence. We are exposing the wizard behind the curtain and what human beings are going to have to do to overcome, this wizard. So, as we went, coming off a break, also, we were, for Facebook friends, this is a flyer for Al's Finger Licking Soul Food. They're gonna, every third Fridays, they're gonna have fish fries out on the patio. They got a beautiful patio stage. If you want to be get your performing act on, go by and talk to Jackie. It's at 2302 East 7th Avenue. Right across the street from the old Broadway bar that has closed down, so these black businesses are going to have a rough time surviving, and that was the objective, because, white supremacy, which is an illusion, recognized that, black folks was waking up. We no longer wanted to be slaves. So that's why all this pandemic and this plandemic came about, to reset the economic structure where they can maintain control over us, over all human beings. But it's all being manipulated by these different alien groups. And one particular one that I'm talking about today is the tall whites. We're going to talk about the reptilians at some point in the later shows. We're going to talk about the grays. But today's topic is the tall whites. And particularly because within that species, there is one individual that is referred to, and particularly in the documentary by Charles Hall, who worked with the tall whites. He was a military, he was in the military, and he was stationed at a particular base, and his job was to greet these extraterrestrials when they came in. They come in on patterns, and the patterns are full moons and new moons. They come in on full moons and they leave out on new moons. And
I didn't take note of that. So come in on
a full moon,
and leave on a new moon.
Yes, yeah, because that's when those portals open up, and it all has to do. This is not magic hocus pocus. What happens is when the moon is in a position, or there's certain planetary alignments. portals are open.
Right.
Just like in your brain, you have a nervous system, and they have points. And those neutrons that goes in between those different points in your brain exchange information. Well, these extraterrestrials have charted out that they can exchange information. They can actually travel through these portals, but they open up. They open up at different times, and so over hundreds and thousands of years, they've timed it, and they've learned how to travel. They have what you call intergalactic craft, and they have what they call scout ships that were actually built here on this planet with the tall whites. Now, the Anunnakis, this technology is too primitive for them, but the tall whites, they even use United States government subcontractors to help build their scout ships. And these scout ships, in the case of the tall whites, there are two types of propulsion systems. There's electromagnetic propulsion system that travels through metal, and then there's I can't remember the technology that they use, the tall whites use, but they use fiber optics.
It's like a fiber optic,
right? And the word, it'll come back to me. And so all it does, it creates an anti-gravity field, and the field extends out over the craft, and that's how they're able to travel up to 5,000-6,000 miles an hour in a blink of an eye, and it doesn't tear up their bodies because the force field that's extended from this fiber optic system protects them. It deals with the terminology inertia, where the speed and the velocity won't rip your body together apart because you have this magnetic field around your ship. Mm-hmm. So the tall whites, they have been traveling here for a very long time, and they have manipulated our government. And and I was watching this movie, a docu movie called The Last Narc, N-A-R-C, Narcotics. And it was a story about this Hispanic guy who was working with the DEA. And he was a very good DEA agent, and he actually believed that during the Reagan and the Bush administration that the war on drugs was a valid agenda, all right? And but unbeknownst to him, Reagan and Bush and Ollie North and all those guys, they had their own mission, down in South America, and they wanted to fund an opposition group to overthrow the government. Well, the United States Congress said, no, we're not funding any more government wars like that. So the so-called war on drugs during that Reagan-Bush administration, they set up a base down in South America, and they started producing cocaine and different drugs and selling it back into L.A., and that's where the crack cocaine epidemic came about.
Right.
But this DEA agent, he was, they set him up. His own DEA and the government and the White House, because he was a good guy, and he was finding out. He discovered that our government was actually dealing drugs.
Yeah,
and bringing them plane loads, C-131s into California or Los Angeles, to be distributed all over. And so our government set it up in cahoots with the Mexican government to kill this guy, and so they kidnapped him, and he was supposed to have met with his wife, and this man thinks I'm fighting the war on drugs,
right?
And it was all a sham, and so they actually set it up for him. They kidnapped him and took him to a spot where there was a Cuban DEA agent, CIA agent there, several political people from the Mexican government. All of them sat around and watched them torture this man to death. And they even kidnapped this pilot that helped him with the surveillance of finding out where the drugs were being ran. So they tortured this brother, this Hispanic brother. They murdered him and dug a hole and threw his pilot in the hole on top of him. Now, I'm not saying this thing to put fear in you, but what I'm saying to you is that the general was behind all this, even though it was several layers. But these entities, don't care about human beings. They don't care about Caucasians. They don't care about Hispanics. They don't care about blacks. They will, to get their agenda of divide and conquer, they will do anything. They will go to any extent, to get their agenda across. And so, so that's part of what this whole conversation about this morning is, that these little small percentage of people and extraterrestrials, the extraterrestrials, the tall whites, they're under contract. So they're not going to go out and do these things. They're not going to go out and torture anybody. They're not going to go out and kill anybody. They're not going to go get a kilo of drugs and go in the neighborhood and sell it. They're just going to sit back and tell you to do this. And it's upon each and every human being to say that, to adjust your moral compass and say, this damn paycheck ain't worth that, me losing my soul.
That's one of the key points right there. That's one of the key points right there. Yeah. So as we're talking about extraterrestrials, and we're trying, what we want to do is make the connection. In other words, why are we talking to you about this other than, giving you the information? Because if we just give you this information, you're going to walk away asking, all right, so what do I do about it? Right? I mean, because we asked the question. When I first started looking into this, I'm talking about like as a teenager, immediately my mind, started searching for solutions. In other words, solutions on how do we surmount such a formidable opponent, right? So again, going back to the paycheck, we had to realize something, family. And again, going back to speaking to men, like ask yourself, when it comes to military industrial complex, when it comes to all of the technology that has been developed, because you got to ask yourself where these guys come from that's building this stuff. How many of them do you know personally to start making these kind of connections? When it comes to these underground bunkers and stuff like that you hear about being built with this, or at least speculating about the kind of technology that they have in them. Who put this stuff together? In other words, if we're talking about an underground bunker that has a underground railroad system that travels from Tennessee to Portland, right? You gotta ask yourself, who put that together? How come I don't know the guy who did it, and why is he not willing to speak on it? Well, thing is this, you've got people that are recruitable for that, but ask yourself, are they really just doing that for the money? Is somebody building a high-speed anti-gravity rail system from Tennessee to Oregon just for the money? No, they doing this because they, as a human being, they can say to themselves, I built a high-speed anti-gravity railroad system. That's what it's really all about. So we've got to get into the state of mind of creating, on an empirical level, from not for the sake of money, just to go, buy some stuff that somebody else created that you can't, that really, may or may not have any real value to the ecosystem in which you live in. So what we want to get into the state of mind of as men, again, Caucasian men, black men, Hispanic men, if we're going to be building, protecting, or expanding the experience capacity on this planet, we've got to get into the state of mind of creatorhood and realize what level of technology is on the horizon, and say, okay, we want to delve into that, but we also want to maintain some balance with our planet in the meantime. That is the only way that we cut the cord for the need of any of these quote unquote negative ETs. Because
we got to, before we get to that point, okay? Because I get downloads, telepathic downloads on technology all the time. But before we get to that point, here's the one thing that the extraterrestrials, the more benevolent, advanced ETs from different parts of the universe, their biggest concern is that we're so primitive. that we'll do some craziness.
With technology?
Yes. Yeah. So what we have to do first and foremost, people say, well, when the ET is going to show up? They're not going to show up until we demonstrate that we are civilized. So now I'm going somewhere with this. This is why I have several movies I want to recommend to people.
Okay.
The Last Narc. Okay, now this is very critical to all you black men and Caucasian men that are performing illegal ops, whether you're in the military or you working in government offices and you're selling resources to, I call them corrupted corporate sources, for your own personal gain. The thing of the story about The Last Narc, all of the DEA agents, right? All of them, when it came time for this reckoning their soul, they're going to tell. Even if they're going to, so the old saying, everything in darkness shall soon come to light. The reason we know about what happened in The Last Narc is because some of the DEA agents was like, I didn't sign up for this, And so, as life went on, it was tearing away at them. I know that this Hispanic guy, he was a good agent, and they killed him because he was figuring out what was going wrong. Mm-hmm. One of the Mexican policemen, now this is very important. One of the Mexican policemen that was there when they tortured him to death. Okay, so he had to do. He said, I know I could be killed for this. He said, but I got to get it off my soul. And while he was sitting there being filmed, he started having these jerky motions. And he said, it's the soul of that DEA agent that's tormenting me. So to all of you brothers and Caucasian men that's doing this so that you can get, a fancy car, big house, pay for these pretty girls and that doesn't love you for the essence, but for your material gain. You're going to have a horrible time. It's going to be revealed at some point. It's going to be revealed at some point.
Yeah. Hey, look, I understand. Maybe because we're from two different generations. Time is of the essence for me. So my point is this: when we're talking about men who have bought into parasitic energy, right? Willingly or unwillingly, and they maybe have faced the reality of the situation and still made one or two choices. Maybe they're like, wait, I don't want to get down like that, or say, all right, well, I made it this far, I might as well keep going. This is what I have to say to them. If you made the decision as a man, then you be prepared for the consequences. It's like, you saw the reality for what it was and you choose to move forward, then what we can't do is hold up the train for them to reconcile for themselves, and say, all right, so we have to wait for those type of guys to get their mind right and for the rest of us to get to start moving forward. Trains move off all the time and leave folk. They leave them right.
There's gonna be a lot of people.
They
left
leave them
behind.
right at the station.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That schedule is what it is, and so what I'm getting at is like, I understand. There's a good good like experience capacity on this planet. In other words, like a whole level of folks that's engaging and well, let me specify, a whole level of men that's engaging in nefarious acts on this planet. And my thing is, listen, bro, you know what you got yourself into. You know what it is to be a grown man. Get yourself into some stuff. Usually, you got to get yourself out of it. So that's fine. We're putting the information out there. If you feel like, hey, all right, so this is an opportunity to reconcile my soul, then reach out to us. Meanwhile, I'm talking to these brothers and sisters out here that's saying, all right, so no, I want to go ahead and ascend to the next level. I want to get involved with that collective that is like we sick of this low level, low vibratory paradigm of living as well. I don't want to go out here and bust my tail for money as an employee or as an entrepreneur, right? So that's who I'm talking to and trying to get their mind ready for how do they deal with this these extracurricular, extraterrestrial entities that are influencing this planet.
Okay, so now here's my responsibility to you, my son. Okay, so I know that there are different people right now in position in the government and corporate America, right?
Right.
And so what I'm doing now is running interference. I'm reaching out to those people, and the whole objective of me talking about this story, The Last Narc, NARC. Okay, go find the movie. See what our government is capable of doing to you. All right.
Yeah.
And here's another case. Even with the Black Panthers, you know, when the Black Panthers was doing their thing, there was an Asian guy who worked with the Black Panther. You know, he was very radical on the outside. He talked a good game, but he was an informant. And so just as sure as the sun comes up every morning, the light is being brought. One of the FBI agents, they started wanting to rectify their souls, so they started talking, and so this Asian guy, and I'm gonna have to give that reference. I didn't bring that reference. This Asian guy who was working with the Black Panther, his job was to coordinate to get guns to the Black Panther. And the reason why they were going to create a situation to provoke the policeman and the Black Panther, and 28 Black Panther men were killed. All right, I don't know if it was men and women, but they were 28. And so the weight of this informant, you know, so when the interviews confronted him, they said, well, you know, the FBI agents, you know, said that you were an informant. And his response was, "Oh, they said that, you know, yeah, that, you know, people are trying to get their souls right. Yeah, they said it. You know, he committed suicide. Yeah, because the weight, he knew that the children and the grandchildren of those Black Panthers, when they found out that he was the one to provide intel on how the Black Panthers, he knew that weight was too great. So I don't recommend suicide. What I recommend to people is just come on out and tell the truth, because you're gonna pay your debt. You know, if you are in a government position and you're maneuvering for your own selfish satisfaction, for money under the table, you're going to be exposed. It's guaranteed. It might be a few years, but it's guaranteed. So so before we run out of time, here's some movies. Here's some Cloud Atlas. This is a movie with Halle Berry and Tom Hanks. Try to see that movie.
That's what that was.
Cloud Atlas. And it kept showing these reoccurring trials and tribulations of, you know, how complicated but simple life is. You know, how you operate in this lifetime is going to reflect your next lifetime, because there is eternal life, but not in the same body. You're going to get new bodies. And so watch that movie with Tom Hanks and Halle Berry. It's an interesting movie. You might get disconnected from it. It's called Cloud Atlas. You know, I'm not getting a dime for promoting this, but this is all part of the process of waking people up. I always recommend, you know, for those people that doubt whether they're extraterrestrials, to watch Unacknowledged with Stephen Greer. And that's a group of Caucasian, a whole community that went and, you know, wanted to bring a full disclosure to reality of the universe. So watch that, and also understand that the Hebrew edited the original creation stories. So that creation story in the King James Version of the Bible, that was an edited version taken from many other groups. The Anunaki, and we're going to do a take on that. Next week, we're going to do a community show. We're going to deal specifically with what's going on in our community. But we have to interwove, I don't know if there's interwove, interweave. You know, both of these, you know, these concepts. Number one, wake up. You got to wake up. And then what's the solution? So we're going to be talking about our community captains again, how we're going to come together, how we're going to bring our people into a system or a paradigm that's going to reverse this, because this white supremacy that's being stimulated by the tall whites, the grays, it has run its course. They have pulled the trigger. They can no longer operate. So you know what their resolution is? Kill you. And they don't care whether you're Caucasian, Black, Asian. You know, they got to reduce the numbers, create fear and panic to control you, because they're the illusion of white supremacy, which is a program to divide and conquer our human species, is just that. It's just that. You know, a lot of people with accolades and you know, with I'm a PhD and all of this. Okay, you got hoodwinked, you got bamboozled. Come back down to earth. Let's come up with some resolutions. All right, so we're going to deal more with these topics. I wanted to expand more on these things, and later on in future shows, we're going to deal with the Greys and the Anunaki. Look it up. Do the research on the Anunaki, and you'll find out why all of those wars being held over there in the Middle East is to cover up that knowledge of who they are and what they are. Yeah. All right. So this has been the Straight Talk Morning Show. My name is Andre Hill Sr. My co-host is Andre Hill Jr. Andre Polite, you know, he had an incident to interfere with him getting here. Next week, the week after next, we may bring him back. This has been the Straight Talk Morning Show. Thank you for listening.